Okay, we're looking at creationism versus evolution, and we left off at a place where gravity distorts time was the subject. Here's the subject. You key that in, you get right to the point where we left off. Gravity distorts time. Now, D. Russell Humphreys states in Starlight and Time, a book that he wrote, the booklet, gravity distorts time. The theory utilizes Einstein's general theory of relativity, which is the best theory of gravity we have today. General relativity has been well established experimentally and is the physics framework for all modern cosmologies. According to general relativity, gravity affects time. Clocks at a low altitude should tick more slowly than clocks at a high altitude, and observations confirm this effect, which some call gravitational time dilation, not to be confused with the better-known velocity time dilation in Einstein's special relativity theory. For example, an atomic clock at the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, England, ticks 5 microseconds per year slower than an identical clock at the National Bureau of Standards in Boulder, Colorado, both clocks being accurate to about 1 microsecond per year, approximately 1 mile apart in altitude, these two places. So there's a 5 microsecond per year per mile differential. A large variety of more precise experiments has confirmed gravitational time dilation to an accuracy of better than 1%. And whatever measurements were made at one altitude would not show the effect, because everything at that altitude would be slowed by the same factor. You would have to compare clocks at different altitudes to see a difference. So while God makes the universe in 6 days in the Earth's reference frame, the light had ample time in the extraterrestrial reference frame to travel the required distances. So the comment I made here is, since gravitational time dilation has been experimentally measured using atomic clocks and airplanes, in which the clocks aboard the airplanes were slightly faster with respect to clocks on the ground, and since this effect is significant enough that the Global Positioning System's artificial satellites needed to have their clocks corrected, and since time dilations due to height differences or less than 1 meter have been experimentally verified in the laboratory, and since gravitational time dilation has also been confirmed by the Pound-Rebecca experiment, you can look that up on the internet, and since the observations of the spectra of the white dwarf Sirius B and experiments with time signals were sent to and from Viking 1 Mars lander relative to gravitational time dilation, then it is feasible that larger, more significant time dilation might be possible much further out in the universe, wherein starlight from very far away, billions of miles away, might be observed in a very short time on Earth, depending upon should the Earth be in the center and universe and be bounded, and the universe is bounded and finite. We have not proved that either way. We're not actually in a position yet, technology-wise, to prove that either way. So if the radius of the universe were to be about 450 million light years, in accordance with Schwarzschild radius, which requires a spherically symmetrical bounded universe, and you can look at this up, this author, Relativity in Modern Physics. And if the time dilation per mile is to be 5 microseconds per year, as repeatedly observed with experiments with atomic clocks, see the above paragraph there we talked about, then that would translate to a 4.1 billion year differential in time at the edge of the universe, which is at 450 million years via light travel to one's time on the Earth itself. This would make stars at the edge of the universe observable in less than 1 day. So light from stars 450 million light years away can be observed on the Earth in about 2.5 hours. And Dr. Carl E. Baugh wrote a little brochure here, A Panorama of Creation, has some good ideas. Interesting ones. From observations of the near heavens, it appears that the Earth is just a few thousand years old. Some stars appear to be billions of light years away. Astrophysicists will admit that the formula which indicates long ages for stars, known as the redshift or the Doppler effect, is in error. The problem is that if we take the formula at face value on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the universe is twice as large as it is on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and on Sunday it's a toss-up. Recently, a scientist on the East Coast found that the Doppler effect can actually be a phenomenon of the tiring light rather than suggesting an implication of long ages. A recent theory, rather vigorously advocated by some astrophysicists, strongly questions the constancy of the velocity of light in space and time, as well as the generally accepted Einsteinian nature of the universe. These writers regard the universe much more realistically as a Euclidean universe, three-dimensional, as in our everyday experience, and the velocity of light is constant with respect to its source, rather than with respect to any observer, as Einstein does. In essence, therefore, the method of this paper leaves astronomical space unchanged, but reduces the time required for light to travel from a star to the Earth. We have Moon and Spencer wrote Binary Stars and the Velocity of Light in the Journal of the Optical Society of America, or more specifically and rather surprisingly, they say, the acceptance of Riemannian space, another model, shall we say, allows us to reject Einstein's relativity and to keep all the ordinary ideas of time and all the ideas of Euclidean space out to a distance of a few light years. Astronomical space requires Euclidean for material bodies, but light is considered to travel in Riemannian space. In this way, the time required for light to reach us from the most distant stars is only 15 years. So Dr. Baugh says, even the stars appeared fully operational at the beginning of creation. One of the concepts of evolutionary consideration is that some of the stars appear to be much closer. The formula which calculates these distances is by no means proven. But even if God wanted them to be 16 billion light years away, that's no problem for an omnipotent personal God. Lubenow writes, the idea that the universe is 15 billion years old and that this age gives validity to some evolutionary or developmental cosmology is widely believed, but it's totally incorrect. It is a classic case of getting the cart before the horse. One of the great astronomers of the 20th century, Sir Arthur Eddington, expressed this basic principle of cosmology. For the reader resolved to eschew theory and admit only definite observational facts, all astronomical books are banned. There are no purely observational facts about the heavenly bodies. Astronomical measurements are, without exception, measurements of phenomena occurring in a terrestrial observation or station. It is only by theory that they are translated into knowledge of a universe outside. Our perspective limits us to what we can know. We have Sir Arthur Eddington about the expanding universe. Eddington said that there are no undisputed observational facts about the universe, really, including measurements of age and distance. Really, they've changed over the ages. And any knowledge we have of the universe, obviously, our knowledge is true only if our theories are true. Eddington was not talking about the solar system so much as about the universe beyond. Many do not realize that the farthest direct age distance measurement we can make in the universe is limited to only about 300 light years, done by triangulation using the diameter of Earth's orbit as a baseline. All age distance measurements beyond that are indirect and are based on assumptions which may or may not be valid are questionable. Now, one of the fallacies of the Big Bang cosmology is based upon this time-distance relationship. Because the light from distant galaxies appears to be redshifted, Astronomers believe that the universe is expanding. Although the idea of an expanding universe is just one of several possible interpretations of the redshift of light, this expansion in itself is not necessarily unbiblical. What is unbiblical is the extrapolation of this expansion backward 15 billion years to an alleged Big Bang, which hasn't been proved. The validity of this extrapolation can be put to an observational test. When we look out in space and we look back in time, if the universe has been expanding for 15 billion years, we would expect to see a difference in the spatial density of the galaxies. Galaxies far out should be closer together than the galaxies close to our own local galaxy, the Milky Way system, because they are closer in time to the Big Bang. However, we do not see these differences even when measured within the parameters of the Big Bang cosmology. So Sir Bernard Lovell commented on this fact. But it is a misfortune for the observer, as I explained earlier on, that we do not find any change even in what we call the spatial density of the galaxies. We find that the number of galaxies per given volume of space, per cubic megaparsec, as we say, is the same at the distance of 4 billion light years as it is in the region around our own solar system. Wow, really? The implication of this observation is quite fascinating. It means that if the universe is expanding, it has not been expanding very long. If the universe were 15 billion years old, the spatial density of the galaxies would be very different and close in as compared to far out. So, Dr. Patton says, it seems that the more we learn about the basic laws of nature, the more those laws seem to tell us that the visible matter, the stuff we can see, shouldn't be arranged the way it is. If the universe is billions of years old, there shouldn't be galaxies out there at all. And even if there are galaxies, they shouldn't be grouped together the way they are. The problem of explaining the existence of galaxies has proved to be one of the thorniest in cosmology. By all rights, they just shouldn't be there. Especially if, according to the evolutionists, the universe is billions of years old. Yet there they sit. It is hard to convey the frustration that this simple fact induces among scientists. Despite what they may read in the press, we still have no answer to the question of why the sky is full of galaxies, although we've succeeded in eliminating many wrong answers. Now, James Trefil, professor of physics, and then we look at formulations like barred and spiraled galaxies. These straight bars of star formations, which appear to be dissecting the spiral galaxies, are amazing if they have been spinning as long as we have been told by evolutionists that they've been spinning. That organizational structure that we see would wrap itself in accordance with Kepler's third law is just a few thousand years. We see the principle illustrated with spinning ice skaters. They hold their arms out, they spin more slowly, and as they pull them in, they spin faster. Likewise with the barred spiral galaxies that are spinning very rapidly, more rapidly than evolutionists' theories can account for. The interior would spin faster, and the outer part would spin more slowly. And if you've got a bar through the middle, how in the world do you get there if they don't know? And it would wrap itself up and self-destruct in just a few thousand years. So, we go on. The planets and moons of the solar system appear to be young. There are facts about the planets and moons which disagree with the various evolutionary theories of origins. More reasons why the theories are not true. Nearly all the sideways movements in the planets is in the planets, yet nearly all the mass is in the sun. The theories require the opposite. The orbits of Mercury, Pluto, asteroids, and comets are not in the same level plane as the others. Both Uranus and Venus rotate backward instead of forward. Uranus is literally rolling along. A third of the 60 moons orbit backward and not forward. No theory of self-origin can possibly explain that. One example would be Triton, one of Neptune's inner moons. It revolves backwards, has a circular orbit nearly, and is so close to the planet that it should fall into it. There are many differences between the planets and the moons. Yet, if they came from the same gas, they should all be alike.